By recording, does that mean pumping it out to that Facebook thingamabob that you do?
Yeah, I got to do all that. Boy, we already got questions.
Oh.
Mark's question is, see you both, hear you both. Those aren't questions, Mark.
Mark, you suck at asking questions.
So Mark, just so you know, the Q&A button is to ask questions, and then there's a chat button where you can say things like, see you both, hear you both.
Which I just look at the chat one, so if anybody has questions, you can post it on the chat stuff, and we can all make fun of Josiah as he tries to solve his crappy internet problem.
Thanks. Sorry to you both. Oh, good question, Mark. No problem. All right, so I don't see my name or there's a phone caller in the list of participants. So I guess phone callers don't show up or something. Because I want to give myself permission to talk on the phone.
You know, right now, Josiah, your internet seems to be working fine. Maybe it was just a fluke.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we'll continue and see how it goes. So we'll go live to Facebook. How you doing, man? It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Yeah, like 4 days or something.
I know. It feels weird. No more Rick and Morty.
That's right. Yeah, the whole Rick and Morty show thing just stopped because you left. So now I've got all this Rick and Morty to watch, and you know, I'm not watching it.
Ooh. Rick and Morty's awesome. If you guys have not seen that cartoon, it's hilarious. I don't know if we talked about that on the previous show or not.
We did.
We did? All right, good.
And my Kickstarter, so we talked about it the last show, but it was like we're getting ready to start it, and so we started it, and it was totally funded in 22 hours.
Fuck yeah.
I was really thinking that it might
your
not.
Best.
Yeah, that's right. It's a record for me. In the past, I've had 2 Kickstarters that got funded in 48 hours, but wow, 22 hours. That's amazing. And I was even kind of wondering if we were going to get funded at all, because I don't know. It's like it's some new territory for me, and at the same time, it's like I don't know. There's kind of like there's already Geoff Lawton's online PDC, and then there's the old Bill Mollison thing, and I kind of feel like I don't know if we're offering anything that's all that new. But you know, of course, I think it's really good. I'm just kind of surprised that people wanted it, that people paid for it. So, yay! Oh, now your internet's all hosed again. Mine's still smooth. Hey, if you guys post questions and stuff inside of the chat, I could just answer questions while we stare at the blank screen that is called Josiah. Oh, look, he's back.
I can hear you. When my internet goes to shit, I can still hear you on this.
Okay, all right.
So then I can't rebuttal and be like, fuck you, Paul.
So then what we need is people to post stuff out there, I guess. So the Kickstarter's doing great. I think that I'm going to be putting out a YouTube video here in a couple of days that's got your dad in it. That's going to be an amazing video. You know, you were here when Dan Oman was here, and that was really cool. Oh, and before I forget, so not only is there my Kickstarter, which it seems like I should like post a link into the chat thing. I'm not sure I can do that. Let me see if I can. All right, so there's my Kickstarter. But I was looking at this thing earlier, and that is that let's see, Gracie. Yeah. So remember how we did a show a few weeks ago about Richard Perkins, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that was cool.
So then basically so there's that, and then you probably don't remember, but several years ago I was the supreme executive producer with Bacon, Cheese, and Sparkles for a movie called Permaculture Orchard. which was a nice movie. I've got a podcast out about where I rip apart every detail of that movie.
He's been on Permaculture, or he's been on with our show, presentations, PETV presentations.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the guy who made the movie, Olivier, he has a new movie out which is all about Richard Perkins, and he's the Kickstarter for it, and it's not doing very good. And I think it looks like a really fantastic show, and I want to make sure that it happens and that the movie gets funded, so you can, because it's one of those things where he's like got all the footage and everything, but it's expensive to go from raw footage into a show. I mean, you not only do you have to do all the editing and all the other sound stuff and things like that, but then you got to print them onto DVDs, and then you got to ship them, and so this is a not cheap thing, and it's a perfect time to do a Kickstarter, like kind of gauge to see if there's enough interest.
Just increased your speed to 1010.
I'm told that they just increased my speed to 1010.
I thought it wasn't possible to do that.
Magic, apparently. My mom says it's possible. I'm visiting her place in Canada.
You're at your mom's place. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, your mom has superpowers.
So in Canada, apparently the only way to get internet around here, at least, is through wireless. And apparently wireless has the ability to do 10 up, 10 down. So yay.
Okay. All right.
She just called them and told them to fix it.
Fix it. Damn it. Okay.
Fix it.
All right.
So Richard Perkins is awesome, and yeah, I'll definitely be sharing that with my peeps because I would like to see that funded as well.
So he set up with the Kick Booster, and so I've made a thread at Permies, and I posted the link into the chat.
Oh yeah, I can share it.
Yeah, so
I can share that.
Share that, and oh, look at that! There you go.
Gracie's backyard.
Yeah, and but see now those. Okay, see the link says we just launched a Kickstarter campaign, so that link is using the Kick Booster link. So everybody who wants to promote this can get a 10% kickback.
Ooh. By using that link?
Well, you don't. I mean, if you use that link, I get the 10% kickback.
Oh, but don't use that link. Use my link.
Oh, you're going to make a link now?
No.
It's like, no, what I'm trying to say is everybody who wants to like make links all over the place, you can get a 10% kickback. The Kick Booster program.
Okay.
I'm trying to get my stuff set up there, but it's like, it kind of freaked me out. I went to go set up out there once my Kickstarter was going, and it's like, okay, type stuff in here to get full and complete access to all of your Google Analytics.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the ability to edit all your Google Analytics stuff. And I'm kind of thinking like,
no.
I have a lot of big websites behind that. I'm not going to just share all that.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing now?
I just thought maybe people would like seeing some greenery instead of a window.
It's like, oh look, it's Canada. Did you get your dad back home in time?
No. His girlfriend left for Canada like 2 hours before we got there. She wasn't happy.
Oh, oops.
Oh well.
Well, he did beautiful work at our house.
Yeah. Let's see. I was going to show the Permies thread for that. I should get on that. And now you're going to do a video with of the stuff Bear Paw. Now Bear Paw got on camera, and he's not very good on camera. He's kind of shy because he's not used to being on camera all the time.
Yeah. We also had Nick Fouch, and he's used to being on the camera a lot.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that video. Now, I saw a Permies thread on what was going on. Does it have new pictures that I haven't seen yet?
There are new pictures out at the Permies thread that you haven't seen yet. And then Dan sent me a rough cut video this morning and the video was amazing.
Awesome. So the couch balcony is what I'm seeing in the forums here. Okay, cool. So, oh, you guys are seeing it too. So here we are. There's Bear Paw working on stuff. And there's a teddy bear up there.
Yeah, the lazy worker.
Hey, there's Nick. Poor Nick. All right, so, and there's Bear Paw cutting up a tree. It's cool because those roots are all along the top. It's upside down, so the roots are on top. He likes doing that a lot. That's cool stuff.
I think an important thing to emphasize here is how, like, you see the guys that are hanging out in this and are working with them. I mean, they're learning a lot about roundwood timber framing stuff, including working with rootwood. And they're just here as part of our permaculture boot camp. And
yeah, they're there to work for you so that they can be part of the PDC. So that it's a payment, and in that payment, that is what they're doing. That's how they're paying for it.
So we feed them and we give them a buck. Although a couple of them have been tenting it recently, you know, to make room for Nick and whatnot, and you and Bear Paw. So they've been tenting it. Look, there's the biological Roomba.
Good kid, by the way.
Yeah, I call him Bear Poop now. He told me he told me a story about how he's going to get inside of a bear so he can be bigger than me. And I said, the way you get inside of a bear is through the teeth hole. And then there's a process for that. The bear's familiar with how this works.
And you end up being
you Bear Poop.
Nice.
He doesn't like being called Bear Poop, I've learned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's bringing out the 4-year-old within me. Oh, which would probably be a different kind of bear poop.
So this is cool. This is how we basically make sure everything's straight along those roots. So, and then he, of course, it's not like he's chiseling out to make sure it's straight. He gets his chainsaw and does it all by eye. Scares the shit out of some people. Like, he'll carve a bear face. I remember he carved this, it was a grizzly. He thought they wanted a grizzly bear. And then they sent an email. He sent the picture to him all done. And they said, he's like, here's your grizzly. It's going to be, you know, when you want to ship it and all that. And they're like, oh, we wanted a black bear, not a grizzly bear. And so he just walks out there with a chainsaw, cuts the nose off the bear, like hours and hours of work with the chainsaw and chiseling and grinding, cuts the nose right off, scares the hell out of everybody. And lo and behold, next day, it's a fucking black bear. All right. So, and then there's the willow feeder.
Yeah.
And
Which, remember, you were on the ride when we named it. We were like trying to do some brainstorming for the name. And
Willie, was it Willie Wonka and the
Willow Wonka?
Willow Wonka and the chocolate factory.
Willow Wonka, a different kind of chocolate factory.
That's it. I mean, look at that. That's a person who is there working to pay for something, having a blast.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And there's more pictures. Fuck. Cool. And there's Bear Paws. He puts that signature on everything he does. Cool. So pretty soon, there's going to be like tables under here with students. And then up here, there's going to be like couches with students.
Yeah. We gotta do a couch run and go get a bunch of couches.
Yeah.
Give Craigslist to work out.
Or futons or something. Well, they got to be.
That's right. You know, that would be kind of a cool thing to put up there. Is to put up like some of those bunk beds that kind of turn into a couch on the lower level. So you can kind of have a couch on the lower level, and you can have like a bunk bed above that.
Is there Is there enough headroom for a bunk?
I don't know, but that would be cool. That'd be pretty cool.
Definitely the bottom futons, so they could fold out and people could sleep up there, I guess.
Hey, are all the people that are on the show with us today, are they able to type in here? I see, let's see.
Yeah.
Michael Jankowski wrote yes when we first started.
Yeah, everybody type something. Type something in chat. Looks like there's... here, I'll start. Something. Hey,
okay,
Billy had the same idea.
Billy, everybody's right. Okay, something. Wit. Okay. Hello, Colin. All right.
All right. So
I think what was happening is that I was typing it. No, I typed it. Were you guys able to see those links I posted earlier?
Yep, I got them right here. Billy says yes. Michael says yes. Yeah, we're good to go.
Great links. Okay, all right, we're good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, and look, there's Julia.
Hi, Julia. Ben from the Redwoods. Hey, Ben, it's Ben from the Redwoods. All right, so there's you can go to Permies, the couch balcony, and see more pictures if you want and stuff that's on there. And that was pretty awesome.
So Julia lost her dog. Her dog died.
Oh, so did I.
The toe licker dog. Oh, that's right, Josiah.
Yes, I brought a dog to Paul's, and now it's dead.
Well,
so yeah, well, I'm hoping what happened is someone picked it up and stole him, and now he's living a good life with the people that steal dogs. Yeah, it sucked.
That's the happiest possible thought. Somebody stole your dog.
Yeah.
Although this is mountain lion country.
Yeah. He's a beagle. Followed his nose into the woods and never to be seen again.
We used to say that it's cougar country, but now cougar means something totally different.
Yeah, they're still eating dogs either way.
So this movie, Gracie's Backyard. I mean, first of all, I've been kind of watching since we watched that one video about Richard Perkins, and we kind of we turned it into a whole episode of Permaculture Smackdown. I've been kind of keeping an eye out for his other videos, and I've watched about every other one on YouTube. And then of course I think Olivier's video abilities are quite good, and so I can't help but think it would be a really good video.
I'm liking the stuff he's been doing, and I'd like to do something with him in the future.
Yeah, I've supported his Kickstarter, the Permaculture Skills, although I have to confess I haven't even looked at it yet, and I really what do you got there? What are we doing?
Oh, some people ask me what I'm drinking. It's Smith & Forge hard cider. It's not one of those fucking energy drink things. All right. Yeah. All right. So we had a request.
Is that part of the Q&A?
Yeah.
Oh, what are you drinking?
I like the Smith & Forge stuff. Pretty good taste. A little too sweet for me. I like it a little drier, but it's 6% alcohol, so I like that. What are you drinking? Water over there?
Water.
Okay, so we got a request to talk about this stuff, which could be a huge conversation, and I don't know if you want to tackle it, but basically, biochar, is it good?
I believe a study came out like 6 days ago that made it clear that, and it's, so I mean, like I've been saying it for about 7 or 8 years now, but a study came out to basically support what I've said, and that is that in colder climates, biochar doesn't do anything for you. More accurately put, biochar is amazing in tropical climates, but it's almost pointless in cold climates.
Well, I wouldn't say pointless, but it's definitely not as useful, right?
I'm going to go, and I believe I just said, so I'm going to say it again, almost pointless.
Almost, okay.
So there's qualifier. I mean, so apparently a study came out that basically said exactly that. I've been to a bunch of different sites where they were in a colder climate, and they were doing experiments with biochar, and they weren't getting any noticeable results. Now, I suppose it's entirely plausible that you could have a soil sample that's basically cement, and then another soil sample where you work in biochar, and you'll have great results compared to something that's nearly cement. But I kind of think a fairer test would be like, okay, here we have basically cement, here we have biochar, here we have hugelkultur, and then let's see how that does. So I think that the thing is putting carbon in the soil is a smart thing, and that if you're in a tropical climate, you would be wise to put it through a biochar process before putting it into the ground, or else it'll all just disappear really fast.
And there are some contradicting articles. Like if I look at, this is both from permaculturenews.org. We have Beware the Biochar Initiative, which was 2010. And then jump forward 6 years later, we have Biochar the Brief History, and it kind of supports it. And I like that. I like that you're saying it's really more about climate and whether it's useful or not. And so the one thing that Bill Mollison talked about was these villages that would use biochar, and these would be tropical villages. And the way they did it, I got my drawing board here. We'll get a circle here. So this would be like the village, right? Yeah. And then you have a path. Oh, that way, dummy. Eraser. You have a path comes out, so so it's all forest around them, and they've clear cut this area for the village where they live, and they've cut, and that's not a large village. This is a small village, right? And they've cut a path out into the woods, and I'm going to say 5 acres for this example. It changes based on the size of the village and the location, the climate. But this tends to be a very similar thing that we see in many different cultures around the world, especially in the tropics. And so they have their village, they cut a path into the forest, and then what they do is they clear cut and burn an area, like a small area, but that's where their gardening is. So they garden that area. And then once the soil stopped producing so well, they go through and they cut another path, and they clear cut another small area. And the big thing to notice there is how far apart these cuts are. So they'll wait until the soil here is pretty much depleted, or it's just not producing enough food for them. And instead of cutting a bigger circle and expanding, they cut another circle with a large gap in between of forest. And that's because the edge effect. So they keep doing this years and years and years, and by the time they get back here to where they started, it's all new forest again. And they do the same thing. They cut it down, burn it, use the wood, and grow again. And it was totally regenerative. Now, it did limit the size of the village. Once the village got to a certain population, they'd have to start a whole new village. Like, that's how the village would break off, and like a hive, right? Like a hive of bees. You just start, it's time to swarm, and half of them would go and start another village.
I think this sounds a lot like a presentation that Willie Smits gave at PV1. Julia, you were at PV1. Am I remembering this correctly? So anyway, I think we've got the Willie Smits videos up on Permies somewhere. There's special lectures. Yes, I think so. All right. But then what they would do is every 7 years, they would move the whole village. as opposed to like splitting off and making a new village, and then you have 2 villages kind of a thing. But every 7 years they move the village. That's my vague remembering from one of his amazing presentations at PV1. Which, by the way, I just recorded an awesome podcast with Diego Footer, which I guess is going to be out on Friday.
Oh, yeah? What did you guys talk about?
You know, it's kind of amazing because I happen to know a lot of the inside stuff about PV, Permaculture Voices. And because I was kind of in the background a little bit helping Diego get that set up. And I know how much shit he went through to do it. And then at the same time, when I gave my presentation, which was pretty much a spanking to the permaculture community, he caught a lot of hell for my keynote. I think it's the only presentation that he puts up anywhere where it says the following views do not necessarily represent those of Permaculture Voices. So, but I kind of feel like we touched into that a bit, and so then he's like, and I think what it is that he's getting out onto YouTube, and then of course there's this podcast, and so then part of it was that he was saying he's a little shocked at the amount of hate that he's getting, and so he kind of wanted to ask me about it. And he says, because I know everybody gets a little bit of hate, but you are going to get more than all the rest of us, and meaning me, I get more than all the rest of the permaculture people. And and so he says, well, why is that? So we kind of had a little discussion about that. But I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to support my new Kickstarter with his podcast, which is cool. I think that we touched into a lot of different things, like why are some of the permaculture greats such dicks, and I talked about that a little bit.
I think if you don't get a little bit of hatred, you're not making an impact on the world.
I think that there's some truth to that. I think there's some truth to that. So we kind of seem to be scattered all over the place talking about a lot of different stuff. But it did seem to be kind of important to him. He wanted to hear some feedback on that, and talk about the importance of also when you do an event, and he was asking me a bunch of advice on how to make a good Kickstarter. And it's my 6th successful Kickstarter, and it ain't even over yet. And so it's kind of like, and 90% of the Kickstarters, if you go and you look at like Kickstarters that are finishing now, like they're going to finish the next couple of hours. Kickstarter has a list of that. And you go and you look, and it's like 90% of them have 0 funding. And I think what it is people put together a Kickstarter, and they just put it up there, and then they don't work it. They don't tell anybody about it. They kind of just assume that, I've heard of people getting rich on Kickstarter, so it's like, oh, I want to get rich too. So I'll put my idea up there. And so no, there's work, there's things that you do, and then he kind of talked about like, well, is it all from your community? And so I had to think a minute about it. I said, you know what? I think 80% of it, 80% of what I get from my Kickstarters. I think in the permaculture community, my Kickstarters are the most funded. I think a lot of the Kickstarters that get funded come from the Permies community, because they're like not going to make it, and then they come, then they finally decide that they'll put up with me, and it's like, okay, can you give us a hand? And then my community is so awesome, and they get funded. Yay!
And my community is awesome, because who's doing the best as far as supporting your Kickstarter?
It's you!
Yeah, so basically you can see like different people and what kind of traffic they're bringing to the Kickstarter.
Right.
And
right
I'm
now,
like,
I've got $22,000, and 1,500 of that came from you. And so I explained to Diego, and I think there's a lot of truth to this, is that I don't know I have to say I don't know exactly what is the gift economy, because whenever somebody tries to explain it to me, it just sounds like I have something that they want, and so because gift economy, I should gift it to them, whatever it is that they are wanting. But I can say I've given away a lot of stuff. I've given away an enormous amount of stuff for free, just giving it out. And I think that what's happening is that people are giving stuff back to me. And it's not necessarily that they're supporting my Kickstarter directly, but it's going to be people like you and people like I've helped out like 25 different Kickstarters get funded. And so then I think I'll go and I'll ask those 25 people, hey, can you support my Kickstarter? And
you're like, fuck yeah.
Three of them will.
Well, I will.
And then and other people that I have business relationships with, I'll say, hey, can you help me out? And I'll give you a kickback. And that's one of the things that I've announced with this Kickstarter is, and you signed up for it. That's how I'm able to track you. Is I said I'll give you a 20% kickback, and so yay. So and I've got a few people. I've got like I think I've given out links to 50 or 60 people, and I think 7 of them so far have shown up in my reports. But I mean, the Kickstarter isn't even a week old yet. And
it's already funded. Funded what? 1 day in? Not even a day.
Not even a day. Yeah, that's cool. That kind of makes you kind of feel warm and fuzzy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'd say that it's going to be kind of like a gift economy thing. So here's okay. Here's Mark. Mark Harris is saying he was at my talk when I gave out the permaculture spanking. He says it was one of the best of all keynotes. Oh, thanks, Mark. I kind of felt bad because, I mean, I was doling out a spanking. It wasn't the kind of thing I like to present on, but I felt like
people need to get in line.
And part of what I said is that a lot of people are saying that they won't go to Permaculture Voices because they're saying it's sexist. And so I think I made a very good case that it was not sexist, and that calling it sexist is a powerful accusation and totally inappropriate. I think I proved utterly that that's a bullshit accusation.
Yeah.
And so then Geoff Lawton was teaching a PDC immediately after Permaculture Voices, and there was a woman there as a guest instructor, and so then the class asked her, why did she not go to Permaculture Voices? And I heard back that she said it's because it's obviously sexist, and the students ripped into her. And I thought, good. That kind of naughtiness needs to get a kick in the nuts. And so I was very, very excited to hear that the students gave her what for. That was cool.
Yeah, it's desperately needed out there. I think run into that a lot. Let's see. Billy says your shipping team totally took care of getting me the fire videos. Awesome. Brian says, sorry, my hands were in aquaponics system when you were asking him to type stuff. All right, so Ben says, with the biochar thing, it seems hugel would serve most of the same benefits. Seems a waste of energy, a bit like wood chipping. We know how you feel about wood chipping.
Don't. That's how I feel. Don't. Wheaton's law of wood chipping. Don't.
Let's see. YouTube is full of hate. Yeah, that's what YouTube.
But you know what's a really lovely thing about YouTube is that you can delete that shit. That's what I do. I deleted something. I put out a brand new video today, and I was like, man, video was up for 2 minutes. Delete.
Now you mean you can delete like their comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't use YouTube as much as I should, or I haven't really like focused on getting subscribers and all that. But I don't censor any of the. Well, I didn't know you could even do it. So.
And I think that was another thing that Diego and I were talking about is that there's people where they go out and they're doing some cool permaculture stuff, but then they get a bunch of hate, and then they just are kind of like
discourages them.
I'm not going to show. I'm going to keep it private. So that I think that's one of the things we do at Permies. If you come to Permies and you share at Permies, and somebody, first of all, we've set such a powerful precedent that I think that people, can have lovely conversations without all of the hate mongering. Yeah. But if there is any, I think we are extremely quick to get it out of there. And we have some extremely powerful moderation tools. We've had some other moderators come on, and they have been moderators for other forums, and they're like, wow, I've never seen moderation tools like what you have here. And so we've got quite an arsenal of moderation tools. So I think it's very rare that you'll ever see any kind of hate speech or nastiness at Permies. And a lot of the people that go around saying like, oh, I don't go to Permies because they censor, I think that you take a good look at that person. That's probably somebody who wrote some horrible hate speech that we removed, and then they got psychotic pissed that we would remove their hate speech.
Yeah, if someone has just a bad idea, you're not deleting that. What you're deleting is the fucktards, the assholes.
Right. So you, Josiah, might come and say, I love to use biochar in Montana. It is the best. And then somebody else will say, you are a fucking idiot. And as opposed to saying, like, I choose to not use biochar in Montana, which I think is a fair response. I choose to not use biochar. I don't think it does much for me. I'm not into it.
And here's why, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then as opposed to like saying, hey, Josiah, you're clearly, fucked in the head. And it's like I've had regional leaders for permaculture, they would call somebody stupid for having a difference of opinion, and then I would remove it, and then they would lose their shit and then tell me that it's like, how's that person going to learn how stupid they are unless I can publicly shame them with, calling them stupid. And so then, then that regional leader would leave in a huff because I would refuse to put their post back.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, I don't think it's, you're definitely not going to get through to someone by talking to them like that. Anyway, I did notice on Permies, sometimes names are blanked out. Does that mean like the person removed their account on the topic?
Oh,
like
dude,
when it says,
I think your internet just crapped out.
Oh, really?
Hey, everybody, can you still hear me, but then Josiah's crapped out? Is that the case, or is it me? Like maybe it's my internet.
I can see Josiah. I can hear Paul.
Okay, you're back. Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. So you said some of their names are blacked out. So it used to be that we allowed all kinds of names, and the thing is on my other site, which is a much larger website at Code Ranch, then we've been requiring a real sounding name for many years. And when Permies started to get a lot more traffic, I started to get to the point where it's like, I asked, I said, hey, could people just use a real sounding name? And then a lot of people just were like, fuck off. and so I was got more and more emphatic. And then finally one day I said, we're going to require a real sounding name. So we had like about 30 people quit the site because, if you can't be known as Buttfucker77, how can you really live your life? So the people that had the fake names, we blacked them out.
All the buttfuckers are now blacked out.
Yeah, and so now we still sometimes get somebody who, wants to use a creative name and instead of their own name, and we don't even require that they use their real name. What we require is that they use a real sounding name, and granted, boy, there's a lot of room for creativity in the world of not real sounding names.
Yeah.
And you can always pay an homage to your favorite fictional characters and things like that. But it's like, there's lots of places all over the internet where you can do that. This is just different.
There are
So,
people that have weird names that are like what everybody calls them, like my dad, Bear Paw.
that's true. So, for example, Bear Paw. And so what we do is if somebody's got a name which might be their nickname or something like that, and if it sounds like a real name, then we let it go. But if it sounds fictitious, if it sounds made up, then we challenge it. We say, is that your real name? And then if they're like, oh no, I just wanted to pick something that sounded clever or whatever. Yeah, it's a little too clever. It kind of encourages other people to be cleverer than you. And so we got to draw the line.
Yeah.
So we try to work with folks and help. I mean, some people want to remain anonymous. And it's like, no, anonymous is great. Just pick a name that's not your name that will be your nom de plume, but it has to sound like a real name.
Yeah.
And so this is how we roll on the site. I would imagine that probably 80% of the people use their real name.
Yeah. Lots of people like having pen names, right? It's a pen name.
Sure.
Yeah. Especially if you work for like the government or Monsanto and you hate them and are on Permies, like talking about permaculture stuff.
I think that when you get together in your local community or you go to a PDC or something, then you've been using your real name, then, when you use your real name at that event, then people can make the connection. Oh, I know you. And so it's a way of building community both online and in meet space. So, yeah, there you go. When you see that blacked out name,
that's what it is.
That's the story. That's what's going on there.
Jaime has a permaculture question for us.
Oh, wow. What is it?
If you're going to install swales by hand, would you start at the highest elevation or the lowest, or does it matter?
By hand. Wow.
Highest, I think. You want to know why I think highest, Paul? I think
that water to soak in sooner.
Well, it's more that if you're doing it by hand, it might take you a long time, and you don't want all of the water rushing down the hillside and hitting your bottom swale because it'll wash it out. But if you start at the top, much less water is hitting that swale.
That seems reasonable to me. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, in fact, Richard Perkins recently had a video where he talked about in his area, swales are a really bad idea. I thought that was interesting. But this is something that I advocate, is that swales are also really great in tropical areas, but I avoid making swales in cold climates.
I like swales. I mean, I use keyline swales, hugelkultur. I use all kinds of stuff. I don't care. As long as it's retaining water, I'm happy. And it works for the situation. Ben
Zamita writes, I once felt bad about how what I said coming across as mean. Well, went back to edit or delete it, and it was already gone. It would help to have a Permies moderator for this purpose in my real life.
I need a Permies moderator on my shoulder saying, don't say that shit, man.
Julia Mason says, I didn't know you could delete comments. I guess that means lots of people don't put energy into that. I think they should. Into deleting comments, I guess.
On YouTube. So there's a lot of hate shit on YouTube. Like, someone will post a video about their cat, and then someone's like, I hope your fucking cat strangles himself on whatever. Like,
yeah.
That kind of shit. And she's saying, I'm surprised people aren't deleting that.
Well, the funny thing is that if, like, let's say you leave a comment and somebody says, I hope your cat dies. and then 20 people come and they reply to that and they say, you know, you're a mean person. And then 40 more people reply to those comments to say, nuh-uh. And so debate breaks out, and next thing you know, you've got 400 comments. So then YouTube loves that shit. YouTube is like, I'm going to show your video to everybody because clearly a lot of people have a lot to say about this video. And so, oh, hey, I got a quick thought. Speaking of weird things that make your stuff rank well, if everybody watching this could go and support my Kickstarter for $1, you know, the minimum. And I think that for $1, we have a lot of sweet stuff in there. I think we talked about that last week. Yeah, and it's like, but if you all go in and put in $1 all at once, then I think the algorithms at Kickstarter, like, move it up in the popular thing. And now you might think, like, who gives a shit? But one of the reasons why I like to put stuff on Kickstarter is that if we do well, then we infect more brains with permaculture. And so there's a lot of people on Kickstarter for a lot of reasons, and it's great to try and get their attention. Hey, check this out, you know, and then they see permaculture stuff up near the top of the popular thing where they're cruising around. And so I mean, there's little things that you can do to $1. I mean, if people hate my guts, then it's kind of like, that's cool. Just put in $1. There's not a whole lot I can do with $1. So, oh, we broke 23,000. Hot dog.
Keep it coming.
Yeah, 21 days ago. We have a stretch goal set up. I haven't posted it yet. So it's just like every day is one long parade of stuff.
Is the stretch goal going to be posted before next week?
I hope to post the stretch goal within an hour after we're done today. Oh,
good. Can you tell us what the stretch goal is?
So the stretch goal is, and Josiah, you smart ass fuckwit, you've been a key part in making this happen. And so so it's actually you and I and Daniel Bender have worked out the stretch goal, and that is that if we hit an X amount, which the Kickstarter is going so good, I was good at when we were first talking about it. It's like, let's set the stretch goal for $20,000 because it doesn't look like we'll hit 20,000. 20,000 might be a stretch for a stretch goal, and then. Wow, we blasted past that already. We haven't even announced it yet. I don't know. Maybe I need to announce it for 30,000, maybe 35,000.
35.
I'll figure that out in the next hour. But the stretch goal is that if we reach this stretch goal amount, then we're going to go out. We're going to buy like I guess you'd call it a big screen TV like thing, but a screen that's like 65 inches, and then we're going to put it up above the chalkboard in the classroom, and then Josiah is going to set up. Well, Josiah and Daniel and Josiah will set up.
Oh, it's Paul. Good. I thought it was me. Yes, I get to totally fuck with Paul. All right, so what he was saying is we're going to have a monitor above in the classroom above where the instructor's using the chalkboard and doing his instruction. Ha ha, ha ha, Paul. Ha
Was that me?
Ha ha. Yes. Yes, feels so good. So anyway, above
that's our internet connection that we're going to be using
on the live stream. Oh no, not good. But we have backups. We have backups we are working on.
Yeah, and so so Julia's saying maybe spend twice as much on your big tube internet solution. And so today we were ordering up the part B of our internet, and then Josiah. In fact, Josiah, you need to send me a link to the contraption that will marry those two together.
It's a bonder. So what we're doing is we're bonding. It's a router that bonds the DSL line and the wireless cell phone data line together, so that if one fails, there's a redundant backup.
Okay, you still need to say what's on the 65-inch screen behind the teacher. And so it's kind of to the left of the teacher and to the right of the class. It's kind of a little bit off to the side. And it'll be a chat window that's made super huge and giant. And then the people that are watching the class live will be able to type in such a way that the whole class and the teacher will be able to see whatever it is that's typed. And so it's going to be this, a big giant chat window. So,
stuff like that. Yeah. So, and then the instructor will be able to see what people are chatting. If they want to pay attention to it. Like if someone put in "quit picking your nose," maybe it would be good for the classroom, because they'd be like, "Oh,
suddenly there's something in my nose.
Picking my nose." There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a question.
Now I've got a double duty it. All right.
Oh, Jamie's got more Swale question. Oh, for
See,
Paul.
we're learning who's really in control of my life. The little screen in front of me, or my own self.
I was totally fucking with you that everything was backwards when I was there with you. Jamie.
Is that a question?
Yeah, but it's for you, because apparently he doesn't care what I think. Jamie says, Paul, if you don't use swales, which is your preferred way to retain water in a new orchard? I am in higher elevation without much rain and not much flat land. I was going to swale and plant where it was the flattest. I don't have access to machinery at this time, and a couple hundred trees on the way. Am I fucked?
Okay. First of all, there was the movie called Permaculture Orchard, and I am the supreme executive producer with Bacon, Cheese, and Sparkles. But just because I'm the supreme executive producer with Bacon, Cheese, and Sparkles does not mean that I endorse what you see in that movie. And step one, don't make an orchard, make a food forest. And so I think that a real important ingredient is going to be you shouldn't have more than 10% of the same species. And so an orchard's going to be like an apple orchard. And so it's all apples. Now, of course, in the Permaculture Orchard movie, he had 1/3 were apples, 1/3 were, something else, and 1/3 was something else. But I'm going to go so far as to say, don't do an orchard, do a food forest. Don't have more than 10% apples, more than 10% apricots, more than 10% whatever. And you probably want to have at least 10% be something that fixes nitrogen. And so probably black locust would be the first thing that comes to my mind.
I totally agree there.
Okay. So now that we're going to stop using the word orchard, thank you very much. Next step is going to be you're thinking swales. I'm going to totally do swales. Well, whenever you make a swale, you're making a frost pocket, which a frost pocket is a wonderful thing in a tropical area, but in a cold climate, you really don't want a frost pocket. So I'm going to suggest that instead, what I would do is if it's steep enough, I'm going to introduce terraces in order to control the water flow. I want to introduce a lot of ponds where I can and have the water go back and forth. I mean, that's a traditional permaculture thing, which was stolen right from PA Yeoman's stuff about heat line systems.
The reflection.
Heat line than just that plow. But when it comes to the plow, I want to discourage that, but that's another conversation for another day. And it's that's complicated. I shouldn't just say that, because it's Now I'm going to have 4,000 people saying that. All right. But I'd say hugelkultur beds, and I love the idea of having, because I think an important ingredient to have in all systems is to introduce texture to the landscape. So do your earthworks first. So there you are. You're thinking, I'm going to make a swale. You're also talking about, like, digging it by hand, where I'm kind of like, ooh, whoa, that gets to be some serious work. I've dug some ditches by hand, and it is amazing how much work that is. Might be totally worth renting an extra. I mean, go out there for 2 hours and see how far you get. In fact, I bet you that in 15 minutes you're going to be kind of like thinking long and hard about renting an excavator. So, like, for example, for here, when people do deep roots or they do ant village or something like that, part of the deal is that it's like, and that comes with a few hours of using the excavator, because renting an excavator can be a big thing. Julia is saying that Jesse Grimes digs a swale by hand in the Arizona desert in his latest Patreon video. I believe it, and I imagine that he felt like, it's like, I was going to go to the gym, and I decided
instead, fuck my back.
Something, yeah, there you go. Sure, people can do it, but it's like, wow, that is an incredible amount of work. And I would much rather see people spend an incredibly huge amount of time.
Hey, did Paul just shit out, or yep, gone again? I will say, Jaime, thank you. I'm glad you do care. As far as the frost pocket thing goes, if you're doing a large swale with a very wide swale, I don't think you have that issue. So remember, swales aren't that deep. Now a ditch is triple that interconnection, guys. Yeah, a ditch, on the other end. All right, so to be fair to what Paul is going through right now, he has been testing the fuck out of this thing and, like, crushing the bandwidth way beyond the data limit. And so Verizon might just be now saying, all right, now it's time, you got to settle down, buddy. So that might be the case. Hey, you're back.
I'm back.
I was just saying, with swales, my thoughts are that if you're in a colder climate and you're worried about frost pockets, which I do think they are definitely a worry, especially when you're planting trees. It's a tree planting system. Like, a swale is meant for trees. And you're planting trees in that berm, and you're gathering a bunch of frost, that can be very problematic. But if your swale is very wide, if you're doing a very wide swale, I don't think it's a very shallow swale. I don't think the frost pocket stuff's as big of a deal. Do you? Obviously you do.
If you do a wide, shallow swale, haven't you just made a terrace?
Well, yeah, except that a terrace doesn't have the mound on the outside, the downhill side in which your tree is planted.
Well, and in your terraces, you're going to plant something, and it's a great place. In fact, a lot of times with terraces, what you're going to do is you're going to, because you're going to end up with, like, you take a slope, and you're going to change the slope to be flat stuff and steeper stuff. And then on the steeper stuff, that's where you're going to plant lots and lots of trees. And on your flat stuff, a lot of times that's where you're going to plant stuff where it's like you can, go in there and play with your tractor. Or you can go in there and scythe it or something like that. So you're going to plant your grains and stuff on your flat stuff. So it ends up being kind of the same thing.
Well, you're talking about a much larger swale than I'm thinking. I'm thinking like a 10 or 12 foot wide ditch on a swale. So maybe that is a terrace. In your,
terrace!
When I say terrace, or when I picture terrace, I picture like 25 feet or greater. So maybe it's just we're on the same page. We're just thinking about it differently, or I think words are different.
So I think this was a fascinating thing where our little internet connection has dropped out twice today.
Very noteworthy. What gigabytes are you at for the month? How many gigs have you pushed through that thing?
Well, let's see if I can get this thing to give up its secrets. Oh, it just started the new cycle. Maybe that's what it was doing.
That's what it was doing, is kicking you off.
So I've only used 2 gigabytes of the new cycle. So what we're experiencing now is,
all fresh data.
The 10 gigabyte limit.
So it's a 10 gigabyte limit. Well, all right. So no, it's unlimited, quote.
Right.
But at 10 gigabytes, they have the right to throttle your ass down to like shit internet.
Right. Really terrible.
But they haven't done that because what I think is happening is that you are in the middle of fucking nowhere, so they don't need to throttle the internet because nobody's using it but you. But you were at like 80 gigs or better, right?
Yeah, I got it up to like 80. And there's a lot of people on the internet that are reporting that, with this, and I think this is a fair topic to talk about, because a lot of the people probably watching this are living rurally or exploring the idea of moving to a rural area. And so then the Verizon thing says it's unlimited, but they will throttle it if you go past 10. Or it's 22 if it's just using your phone. But if on a device like this, it's 10. And on the internet, there's a lot of people that are reporting that they're experiencing no change once they go past 10. And so, yeah, I took it way past 10, and I was still getting amazing speeds with it. But I've always noticed that it kicks me off like once every 4 or 5 days. It'll totally kick me off the device. In fact, I'm going to go check real quick. Nope, I'm on it right now. So it hasn't kicked me off. But it does have these glitches in it once in a long while. And we just happen to experience 2 glitches today.
Okay, so to combat that, we are getting a DSL line put in, which will be as a backup system in case that goes down, where we can actually combine the internet and then use one as a failsafe if one goes down.
Right, and I think backup probably isn't the right word. I think that
failsafe.
Sure. I mean, a redundant system.
Yeah.
And so then you've got a device that'll make it so we'll be using both channels at the same time. And then if one channel goes down and the other one keeps going, then we use just the one, and then vice versa.
And I'm sure that if something really bad happens, about 10 people are going to whip out their like smart devices saying, here's my hotspot, use it. I know I'm going to have it there in case, something goes down. I will have my hotspot and on
plan
a different
C, plan D, plan
Yeah, it's like the major backups. And then of course the other backup is that we're recording everything that's being live streamed. And so if worse comes to worse, at least the recording will be there as soon as possible.
Yeah. We've gone through a lot of stuff to make sure that this is going to be, really first class kind of thing. And that comes back to the stuff that we were talking about a few weeks ago about the PDC itself. We wish to try and create a PDC that's going to be like possibly the best in the United States.
Fuck yeah. Tim Barker, man, I'm excited. That's a great instructor. All right, man. Hey, we're at an hour, and we're trying to cap it at an hour. So
we are trying to cap it at an hour. If anybody's got any other questions, you got to bombard it now. Did we cover that guy's stuff about Swales well enough?
I think so.
It seems like he had as you were reading the question to me, I kind of felt like I had 5 things to say, but I only got to the stuff about don't do an orchard and don't do swales.
That's right. You cut off. All right. So
I can't remember the other parts of the things I wanted to say.
Well, all right. So the big thing for you was the frost pockets. You're creating frost pockets, which are going to fuck up roots. I think that's the biggest takeaway on swales. The issue you have with swales, right, in the northern climates?
Is I want to avoid making frost pockets. It's true. Yeah. But at the same time, I want to add texture to the landscape for a variety of reasons. And that might be with hugelkultur beds or berms, or another thing is like, add a lot of diversity, which would include ponds and little creaky bits. Okay, so there's the person. Is it Jaime Black that asked the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying, I never even thought about frost fucking pockets.
There you go. Dodge those frost pockets. Now, the cool thing is that this PDC is going to be taught by Tim Barker, who's from Australia, because he worked years with Geoff Lawton and two Australian dudes, and so a lot of his stuff is going to be for warmer stuff. But then there's going to be a lot of us there that are very cold climate. So not only myself, but this is kind of huge. One of the guest instructors is Helen Atthowe, and you guys sound off in the chat if you know who Helen Atthowe is. But she is. So fuck yeah, Josiah writes fuck yeah. All right. So so I am a certified advanced master gardener. And I got that in 1997, and I was certified by Helen Atthowe. So she's my teacher, and she's been in a lot of my earliest podcasts. And so Colin is saying she awesome. And so she and I bicker about things, and so she's my teacher. And I think one time she actually said that I'm her favorite all the time. But at the same time, we get onto some points and we bicker a lot. And so a lot of people have told me that they've listened to all of my podcasts twice, and they've listened to the ones with Helen Atthowe 4 times. And so it is, but she's a soil scientist, and she's a cold climate soil scientist, and she's not only managed a market garden for decades, but I know that at least 1 year she worked in Colorado on a 2,000-acre organic farm, and did very large-scale stuff. And she does a lot of work with. She calls them food forests, and I know she's trying really hard to. And sometimes I look at her systems, and I still call them orchards. And, she's doing a lot now with fruit trees.
And so you can, that part of that Kickstarter thing, if you go beyond the $1, is that you get to watch her in the live stream. I don't know if we even said that, did we?
So I think at $150, at $100 you get all the video, 220 hours of video. At $150 you get all of that, and you get to watch the live stream and ask questions. And I kind of feel like the lineup of guest instructors is phenomenal. Oh, this is some news. Bad news, really. I just found out like an hour before this started that the other PDC that was happening in Montana, which was going to be in Whitehall over at Sage Mountain Center, that they just canceled their event, their PDC.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I kind of was holding off on talking too much in Montana about my PDC because I didn't want to take away from them. And they were going to have Warren Brush teach, and I've heard great things about Warren Brush.
I wonder if we could do something for the students that were enrolled.
What do you have in mind?
I wonder if we could contact them and say, we can help you out with, somehow help them out with maybe give them the live stream or something at a discount or some way.
I know that when their PDC, they announced their PDC on Permies, and I gave it thread boost. I gave it a whole bunch of thread boost.
Yeah.
Because I was really worried about, being a giant and crushing, their thing, and I wanted to make sure that, and I'm sure that they have a style that's going to be slightly different from my style, and so, but yeah, they didn't get enough students, and so they canceled it. I exchanged emails today with Jessica Peterson, who runs that, and Jessica Peterson appears in at least one of my YouTube videos, the one about hugelkultur. But I've done stuff with Jessica Peterson before. And she's a powerful force for permaculture in Montana. And before, many months ago, I sent her an email and I said, anybody, because we moved our dates. Our dates were going to conflict with her dates like a week. We were going to have a week of overlap.
Right.
And I don't know if it makes any difference, but we moved ours up so there wouldn't be overlap. And so, we ended up, our PDC is now happening a week sooner just so that we wouldn't, I don't know why. I mean, I guess maybe it's possible that somebody could come to our PDC and then go to her PDC. So we made sure that they didn't overlap. But I sent an email to her and I said, all of your staff is welcome to drop by our PDC. And so then she might come by for a day at our PDC.
I would like to do something for her students, the ones that signed up and now can't do it.
Well, I made an offer to her for a couple of things, and but anyway, so we'll see how things pan out.
All right.
But so I've already kind of been going down that road a little bit. And I'm already asking her, like, is she going to do a PDC next year? And so let's coordinate our calendars, because I've already told her earlier what our dates are going to be for our PDC next year.
Right.
And we're actually thinking of doing 2 PDCs here next year. But I can talk about the big one, the normal one, and I'd have to look up to see what dates we've already nailed down. But I think the moment that our PDC wraps here, we'll start selling tickets for the 2018 PDC. So anyway, we still have 2 tickets left right now. I thought we'd be gone, but we had comedy reasons happened, and now there's 2 tickets available. And
haven't really been marketing those 2 tickets, huh? We talked about it on the show, but I haven't seen it elsewhere.
Yeah, and plus this is so close. I mean, it's 3.5 weeks away.
Yeah, that's a lot to plan.
Sometimes people live their life like that, and so maybe it'll work out. But I think right now, nearly everybody, and that's another thing too, is not only is Nick Fouch going to be here for the PDC, but his wife, Esther Emry, is going to be here, and she's going to make a YouTube video and put it up on the Fauchomatic Channel every day during our PDC.
Awesome.
And I think she's going to be here for the tour that happens the day before the PDC as well.
I'm really hoping that there
Anyway,
are
it looks like you froze up, so I don't know whether my internet dropped or yours did, but maybe this is a good point to call it good. Oh, here's Mark Harris saying he's been to Quail Springs and heard Warren Brush speak many times. He is awesome.
I was just saying that I hope there are pie fights. I want to see pie fights at the PDC. Or just, people throwing pies at you.
What a sad waste of pie.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.